Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for July 22nd. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy Wade, better known as Top Flight Wagers on social media, is on. Him and I are going to give you a betting preview of the AFC North. Plus, Gino will have his horse racing bet of the day. But before we get into all that, make sure you go to ProphetX, download the app, use promo code ETOFT21 for a nice little bonus. Also, visit JustOutTennis.store. Use promo code ETOFT21. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. Now, let's jump in and let's see what Gino has for his horse racing bet of the day from Saratoga.
Best bet for this week's going to come over at Saratoga. Let's take a look. Saturday, we're looking at race number 9 here. This is the Grade 3 Lake George. I've been waiting for the one Raining Flower just because I remember this horse from last year. In the November 17th race at Aqueduct, this horse had legitimate trouble behind Laurelin, who's undefeated. Then was off following that race. Showed back up on May the 14th on a sloppy track. So it was the first start back off the bench. Horse needed the race. It was fine, ran third, but that's not really the race we're concerned about. Again, last time out at Penn Oaks, gets a yielding turf course. So you're going through surfaces the last couple. This horse has not had the turf that they wanted. And then a few starts back, lost to a really nice horse named Laurelin. I think Raining Flower is very interesting. Should save ground here in the Grade 3 Lake George. That is race 9 on Saturday at Saratoga. If you're someone who's a big fan of this show, you should check out the new DRF AI. If you're someone who likes to play the horse races, but maybe you need a little help, you can give that a look. Chat.drf.com. Every week in sports, the best information.
Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me Gino B on social media. Him and I are going to be doing some stuff for DRF. Really excited about that. Now, let's bring on this week's special guest, the number one fan of JJ McCarthy, my boy from Indiana, Wade, a.k.a. Top Flight Wagers. Wade, how you doing today, my man?
I'm good. You surprised me with that one.
You know, I'm trying to come up with like an innovative thing. It's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head, man.
I don't even know what to expect out of him this year, man. I'm kind of down on this season, so we'll see what happens.
You know what? I am too, but we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the good old AFC North. All these odds are via our friends over at MyBookie. For those watching on YouTube, click that link in the description below. It really helps me out, and give them a join. We're first going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, 280-1 to win the Super Bowl, 110-1 to win the AFC, 30-1 to win the North, over under 4.5 to make the playoffs, plus 850 to miss the playoffs, minus 1,600. What are your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns, my friend?
Well, I think they're in trouble. After a 3-14 collapse last season, they entered this season with a projected win total right between 4.5 and 5.5, depending what book you look. I believe they were minus 22 in turnover margin last year. They've got cap mismanaging all over the place, especially with the Watson contract. And now they have QB instability, which spells continued regression in my eyes. Some sources labeled them as having the second toughest schedule based on opponent over and under win totals. I probably agree with that. Their offense just remains a huge issue with just the youth at two really important positions at the running back and QB position. They ranked 31st in yards per play last year. And I really don't think the new offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, is going to do much to help here. And I don't think Jim Schwartz is just going to be able to do enough to turn that offense around. Their defense is going to be good as usual, I think. But they at the end of the day, they still have key injuries on the defensive end. Even with Garrett and Ward, Delpit, and the addition of Merritt, of defensive tackle Mason Graham, I just I don't really know where they're going to find success on the offense. And I think over the course of a season, their defense is just going to get worn out. They have a brutal start to the season as well. They start with Cincinnati. They have Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota pretty early. I think they're going to be lucky to win 4 games this season with their QB and wide receiver situation, along with their brutal schedule. It's juicy, but I took the under 5.5. Minus 140 is really the only bet I took on this entire team. I don't really have any player props for them. Just really don't want to invest a lot of money on that team.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at them, I agree with you. I think they have the second hardest schedule in the NFL. They got Mike Bloomger from Rice to be their new offensive line coach. First year in Cleveland. Yeah. This guy's been coaching 2 decades before in college and NFL. Brings more of a zone-heavy run scheme. That's the big shift. Last year, when you look at their metrics, 27th in pass blocking, 30th in run blocking, 31st in sacks allowed. Basically, when Callahan left to follow his son to Tennessee, this offensive line just took a huge step backwards. And obviously, bringing Mike in, this is going to look to try to get back to what they were with the outside zone that shows why they drafted the speed with Sampson and Jukins. Now, Jukins off the field stuff is a complete nightmare. So obviously they're going to need to rely on Sampson, but he had that ball security issue at Tennessee. Ford is still there, is going to be the short yardage / goal line guy. Also, they added Deontay Johnson, who honestly has not been the same since Pittsburgh. Quarterback, good luck predicting who starts. Watson's barely played 19 games since arriving. Stefanski, 100% coaching for his job. Reese is their 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years. Not exactly a stable situation. You got Flacco and Sanders. The way I look at it is this, is if it's Flacco or Sanders, I'm going to look to play Cedric Tillman overs and look to play him in fantasy. When Cooper got traded, there was that 4-game stretch for Cedric Tillman where he averaged 18.6 fantasy points per game. That's the same level as Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson. And his ADP is 162. In best ball or later in drafts, he's worth a flyer if Flacco or Sanders get some time, and you're wasting a low draft pick. If it's Kenny Pickett, that means more Jerry Jeudy. It's going to be the underneath stuff. If it's Gabriel, there's straight out tanking. To me, Gabriel was the worst pick in the draft, and I have no idea how he's going to make the roster. Total mess if he starts. Front office, you take out the Watson thing, I feel overall they've been pretty good. I don't understand what they did this year, though, with a 3rd and a 5th round pick on a quarterback. Doesn't really make too much sense to me. Schwartz is the DC, as you mentioned. I'm not a fan of his wide 9 system. Historically, you can run well against this. In 2023, they were 5th in takeaways. Last year, they were 30th. I mean, you'll probably get some positive turnover regression there. They used that 1st rounder on Mason Graham, as you mentioned, help the D against the run. Garrett's Garrett. He's going to get 15 sacks. But they're going to need someone else in that defensive line to emerge to kind of help Garrett do what they need to do. The main thing to me was this. They led the league in passing attempts last season. Do you care to guess where they ranked in passing yards?
13th.
28th. That's god awful.
Surprising.
Awful.
Yeah.
And we need to watch, are they going to tank? Is there going to be some potential moves? Could they trade Njoku? They drafted Fan from Bowling Green, who was a stud in college. He's definitely going to be a tight end 1 in this league. Maybe they move Njoku. Maybe they look to move some of their DBs. Bottom line, I have no idea what to expect here. Second toughest schedule. A lot of questions in the quarterback room. Coach coaching for his life. I don't know. To me, I have no idea what to do with the Cleveland Browns. I'm just going to look to play some Cedric Tillman props and in DFS if Flacco and Sanders are playing.
Yeah, I love that, actually. I mean, I tried to get to Garrett 15 sacks. I just can't. When you look at his overall career, and now we think they're going to be bad. I just don't see his drive to get to that number, especially if he's 2 or 3 short towards the end of the year, and they're really bad. I just don't know. I don't know where the motivation is for him. And I did actually want to try to get to a Judkins, something on Judkins, maybe rushing yards. I think he might be able to get something. I just don't like his number on sports books.
But he may not even play. Like, he's got that domestic.
No, I know.
Sure. And Samson, I love, but he can't hold on to the fucking ball. If Samson if he could hold on to the fucking ball, you have something there. But too many questions. Now let's move to Cincinnati, the Bengals. Plus 2,100 to win the Super Bowl, plus 1025 to win the AFC, plus 238 to win the North, over under 9.5 to make the playoffs, minus 150 to miss the playoffs, plus 125. Where's your head with the good old Cincinnati Bengals?
This is tough, man, because when you're kind of looking around doing research, a lot of people seem to be on the opposite sides of this team. I think they enter this season kind of really entering extremes from last year. Their win total's right around 9.5. Their offensive is loaded with Burrow, Chase, T. Higgins, and then I really think an undervalued Chase Brown. Burrow, Higgins, and Chase all have secured big contracts, so I kind of like that. I like the stability there, but really, obviously, the defense remains a concern. I'm sure you'll talk more into and dive more into the weeds on their defense here. Cincinnati went 9-8 last season, and they had to win 5 straight at the end of the year to close out after starting 4-8. They lost 4 games where they scored 33 plus points, which I just don't think is going to happen again this season. That was an NFL record. Their defense was just terrible, and I think they can improve on that a little bit. I really don't think they're going to be as bad. Obviously, the biggest questions are their defensive ends. They need to get those guys locked in. They drafted edge rusher Shamar Stewart, 17th overall, and then I really like that they brought a new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, from Notre Dame. I think he can bring a pretty good scheme, and he's had success pretty much everywhere he's gone. If they can get Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart to actually play, they got to figure that out. I really don't know what they're doing, but if they get those guys to play, I think this can be a pretty deadly team. Their roster depth obviously is an issue. They start historically slow. Burrow is 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2 as a starter. I just think at some point that's going to turn. If their defense remains near bottom, Burrow doesn't really come out firing early on, I think they can struggle and they can maybe have a worse record than last year, but I just don't really think that happens. I just think if the defense is merely standard bad and not like historically bad like last year, I do think they can get back to double-digit wins. Cincinnati could hit 11 and 12 wins if their defense, if they can get those 2 players to play, and then they can get everything working in the right order here. I'm banking on the new defensive identity to have a little bit of a shift. I don't think they're going to be great, but I think they can make strides in certain areas. And I just think the offensive continuity with Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Gesicki, Brown, and Iosivis. Prior to last season, the Bengals won 11, 12, and 10 wins. So I think they can get 10 wins here. I took them to get over 9.5 wins at minus 120. I actually really like the plus 130 odds that you could get on them to not make the playoffs, but I struggle to get there because I look at the landscape of the AFC and I'm just trying to think who else is going to get there. I don't think they're not going to win the division, but they could still finish 3rd in this division and make the playoffs. Like the AFC South is going to maybe have one. They're going to have one team. Mm-hmm. Maybe the West is going to have 3 teams again, but maybe not. They should have 3 teams again. And then can you expect 2 teams out of the AFC East, or are they just going to have 1 again? Are the Dolphins going to turn it around? I don't project you to think the Dolphins are going to have that great of a season. So I don't know. I think the Bengals can make the playoffs. So I'm just struggling to get to that plus 130, but I think it's a good look.
I got a sleeper team.
So really for over 9.5 wins was one of the plays I took for the Bengals. The other plays, I actually did take some props for these guys. I took T. Higgins to go over 975.5 receiving yards for minus 114. He cashed this in 2021 and 2022, and he had 908 yards in 2020 and 911 last season. Burrow is projected again to have the most passing yards and most touchdowns this season. And if Higgins plays more than 12 games this season, I believe he should surpass 75 receptions, which would be a career high. And I think he can get to 110 targets, which would be his second time. I think with the way Chase had such a big year last year. I think they're going to really zone in on him and try to not let him go off as much as he did last year. I think he had like 1,700 receiving yards. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think Higgins will be right around the 1,000 mark. I actually did take his 1,000 at -105 as well, but might as well give over 975 on FanDuel if they're going to give me that number. But I do think he can get to 1,000. And then I also took Chase Brown to go over 850.5 rushing yards. And then I also played his 1,000 rushing yards at +175. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher said that running back Chase Brown is a focal point of the offense this season. Brown broke out in his second year of the NFL last year with 990 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns on 229 carries in 16 games with only 10 starts. I expect him to have, without an injury or with maybe a couple injuries, he may be banged up a little bit. I still expect 14, 15 starts out of this guy. Probably play 16, 17 games again. I don't expect him to be too injury prone. He added 54 receptions on 65 targets for 360 yards last year, with 4 touchdowns in the passing game. So I know Zach Moss still remains there in the backfield. I think he'll still be involved if he's healthy, but I just think it's clear that Brown's the top back and one of the best offenses in football that should put up points. Especially with Brown that proved he can handle volume as both a runner and a pass catcher. I think that's going to also lean in his favor for them to lean on him a little bit more. And I think he should get slightly more volume than last season.
I like that Brown look a lot. When we look at the Bengals, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's some real sharp people that are in on this team and some real sharp people that are out on this team. And I really want to take them not to make the playoffs. But I feel like that +125 number, it's a little too short. I was hoping for a little +150. But I do have some interesting trends for you I'm going to get to a little bit later. Scott Peters, now the offensive line coach. First year in Cincinnati, only 6 years experience. He's going to be running an outside zone scheme. We look at last year, 29th in pass blocking, 29th in run blocking, 21st in sacks allowed. One of the worst units in football. Ted Karros was the only starter with a PFF grade of over 60, just one. They picked up Fairchild, the rookie from Georgia. He should be able to help. He gave up 1 sack in over 1,400 snaps over the last 2 years. Great addition. They need Mims, the second-year tackle, who gave up 33 pressures last year, graded out 80 out of 110 tackles to take a step up. Need a massive leap from him. Otherwise, Burrow is going to be running for his life yet again. Now, you mentioned the historic slow starts for the Bengals. They open up at the Cleveland Browns. Are you ready for these trends, my friend? Are you ready for these?
I'm ready.
No dogs. Last 20 years. 70-49 ATS in week 1. That's 59% with a 14% ROI. Home divisional dogs, which the Cleveland Browns are. 28-15 ATS, 65% with a 27% ROI. Are you ready for this one, dude? Straight up, these home divisional dogs week 1 are 28% ROI. So yeah, I am fading Cincinnati out of the gate. I'm going to be on Cleveland here, plus the points and on the money line. With trends like that, it's just too good to pass up. Now, you mentioned Jamar Chase. Last year, there's a big shift with him. His depth of target went from 9.4 yards to 8.7. More bracket coverage, but his yards after the catch jumped from 6.4. I think that's huge. Now, if they're running bracket coverage on Chase, that's not good for T. Higgins because he only averages 4.1 yards after a catch. He needs space. So the one thing that I've learned while doing this DFS thing, if it's a team that plays zone, it's T. Higgins. If it's a team that plays man, it's Jamar Chase. So that's something to monitor while doing this week-to-week DFS stuff. If I have the top pick in fantasy in any leagues I'm in, I'm going with Jamar Chase just because of the connection him and Burrow have. There's also a common misconception. When you look at the analytics, this is a really slow-paced team. A lot of people think they play fast, a lot of deep shots. they lean on the short passing game more than people you think about, and they use it to set up the run. You mentioned Chase Brown. I think he's in for a monster year. This team was 30th last year in rushing yards, which is bad. But Brown was 17th in total rushing yards. That totally supports the angle you're talking about him being the workhorse back and getting all the carries. The problem for me is the defense. There's this standoff with Trey Hendrickson, who probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Adam Schefter today when he was on, I saw it on TikTok. Schefter said he talked to Trey Hendrickson, and he was like, hey, if you don't play this year, your career is probably over. And he goes, I'm fine with that. So it kind of tells me that he's not going to look to be playing this year unless his contract demands are met. And then Stewart, there's something with the wording. Now, it depends who you talk to. The agents say it's the Bengals. The Bengals say it's the agent. I really have no idea what is going on here, but I know they need to get him in the room. They lost Lou Amoralo, who was elite at disguising coverages. They brought back Al Golden, who was on the staff before he went to Notre Dame. His defenses at the college level weren't anything special, going to run more man-to-man. The good news, the Bengals secondary actually graded out better last year in man-to-man than zone per PFF. The bad news, in my eyes, Golden's never really been this elite play caller when it comes to defenses. This is one of those situations where I love the offense. The defense is just isn't there. And in today's league, yes, offensive matters, but are they going to be able to get stops in January? Cincinnati might just be in shootouts all year. And if that's the reason, it's just going to be variance. What's their record in one division game, in one possession games? We saw last year with the Commanders, they were great in one possession games and they made the playoffs. But if those go the opposite way, they're going to be struggling. They're going to win a 7-win team. To me, maybe if this team drops off 0-2, I'll play a future on them to make the playoffs or something. But I love your Brown play. I'm probably going to be tailing you on that, but anything else, I'm sitting out right now.
Yeah, I think they could easily start 2-4. The stretch of at Minnesota, at Denver versus Detroit, and at Green Bay is, that's at Minnesota, at Denver, at Green Bay is pretty tough. I know that J.J. McCarthy throws a wrench in there, but the Vikings should be stellar everywhere other than quarterback.
If they going down to Jacksonville isn't going to be a cupcake either.
Yeah.
They're going down to Jacksonville, Denver, Detroit, at Green Bay, Pittsburgh, the Jets, the Bears.
They go at Baltimore, at Buffalo, and then Baltimore again in 3 straight weeks. It's tough, man. I think you're pretty high on Arizona this year. They play Arizona as well.
I like Arizona.
They've got a tricky schedule, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I get a sneaky ass team to make the playoffs in the fucking AFC, and you're gonna hate it.
I love everything you do.
Next thing, Steelers plus 4,200 to win the Super Bowl, plus 540 to win the AFC North, over under 8.5 to make the playoffs, plus 125 to miss, minus 150. Where's your thought on our girl Kia Parlay's favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah. Well, Pittsburgh is back in familiar territory with a projected win total of 8.5. Seems like that's their win total every year. They have exceeded that for 5 straight years now. And with Aaron Rodgers in the mix, the team adding DK Metcalf and bolstering the offensive line with Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. I think their offense could be much more improved, more importantly, more consistent, I believe. They also improved their already strong defense with Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay. TJ Watt returns, and kicker Chris Boswell made 13 field goals of 50-plus yards last year. And then, obviously, head coach Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I also think I really love their schedule. They start the season very soft with games against the Jets, Browns, New England, and Seattle. I do think Seattle can be decent this year, but I think that gives them a lot of momentum going into the season with easier games. Many sources do actually like the Steelers to win double digits this season. While I may not be as optimistic as that, I love the plus money look on their over 8.5. With this defense and a QB who has the ability to manage games without turning the ball over, if he's not absolutely terrible, I think they can absolutely go 10-7, maybe even 11-6 if they have enough good breaks happen for them. This is a Mike Tomlin-led team after all, and we just can't forget that. I recommend the over 8.5 due to schedule advantage and historical trends, especially at plus money. If over 8.5 wins was like minus 130, I probably wouldn't mess with it. But at plus money, can't remember what book has it plus money right now, but I just think I really like that look for them. Props I played for the Steelers. I do have a couple here. I played TJ Watt to get 12 plus sacks at minus 150. He cashed in 18, 19, 20, 21, and 2023, and he's due again in 2025, which would now put him to cash every other season since 2021. I believe with the resurged energy with Rodgers and Metcalf on the offensive side of the ball, I expect Watt to crank it up even more this season. The addition of Derek Harmon will help keep pressure off of him, as Harmon can be a disruptive force. I looked at his plus money, plus 200 to get 15 sacks. There's very few players in the league that can get there. He's only got there a few times in his career, I believe twice. Teams focus on him enough. I'm not sure he can get to 15, but I believe 12 is doable. I definitely think he can get to actually 13. Everyone's projecting him to get a decline this year, especially after getting another payday. And that's warranted, but I just think he knows people are doubting him. They have a chance to have a pretty good season. I think he wants to make sure he doesn't waste the maybe one season they have with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm definitely playing this, even though it's juicy odds. I don't care. I think it's going to cash. So I'll stick that in my pocket. I do think it's worthy of a play. I also took a long shot on the Steelers. I played them to make, this is real weird, but I took them to make 1+ field goal in every regular season game at plus 700. Chris Boswell is one of the most accurate kickers. Last season, he made one in every game except one at Washington. In 2023, he missed by 2 games. And in 2022 and 2021, the back-to-back seasons, he missed by 1 game again. And then in 2020, he missed by 2 games. So he's been very close the last 5 seasons. Now with Rodgers and the addition of Caleb Johnson, Metcalf, and a stronger offensive line play, I just expect Rodgers to at least be able to move the ball, help give the Steelers enough chances to continue to put points on the board. I don't think they're going to be a high-scoring touchdown team, but I think they'll be flirting around field goal range all season long, especially with competent coaches behind Rodgers and this offense. I think he's going to get kicks every game. I think last year he missed the Washington game because he didn't attempt any. If he attempts them, he usually makes them. So it's a long shot. He hasn't hit this, obviously, but I think that's a pretty fun look. And then, I guess that's another. Well, no, I'll wait on that one. That's another thing. Yeah, those are my plays. I guess it's Steelers over 8.5, TJ Watt to get 12 plus sacks, and then the Steelers to make 1 field goal in every game.
I like it. Let's talk a little Pittsburgh Steelers here. Made a bold move this offseason, bringing in Aaron Rodgers, pairing him with Arthur Smith as the OC. And there's one question on the table. Will Aaron Rodgers actually buy in? And that's $1 million question. When we look at the offensive line, you have Pat Meyer returning for his 4th season coaching the unit. There's actually some youth and some upside on this line. When you look at it, 24th in pass blocking, 9th in run blocking, 23rd in sacks allowed. So yeah, better in the run game, pass pro, not as much. Broderick Jones has to take a leap in year 3, gave up 10 sacks, 43 pressures last year, which is awful. When you look at it, you got Troy Fatanau, played just 1 game last year before the knee injury, but looks solid in limited action. Zach Frazier, who was unbelievable at center as a rookie, allowing just 1 sack, graded it out top 10 in both the run and pass blocking. And McCormick logged 933 snaps as a rookie, showed some real flashes. This line is young, physical, and I think they're going to take a huge step forward. Offense itself, Arthur Smith, we all know what it is, play action and RPOs. We know Rodgers isn't going to tuck the ball and run it. He can still do some RPOs. It's a QB-friendly offense. Here's the catch, though. The last 3 of 4 seasons, Aaron Rodgers led the NFL in audibles. But this is the first time he won't have full control of the offense. Is he going to follow the blueprint? Is he going to be able to cash his ego at the front door? That's the $1 million question here. If he buys in, I think there's a chance this offense is going to be very good. You got DK Metcalf as your alpha. You got Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, legit 200 tight end combo working underneath. You brought in Caleb Johnson from Iowa, flash big time ability in the wide zone at Iowa, which they're running here. Look, I know there's supposed to be a timeshare with Jalen Warren, but I wouldn't be surprised if Johnson wins out, and if it comes out at the end of the preseason that Caleb Johnson is going to be the starting quarterback, I'm legitimately going to put a play on him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year if he's named the starter. Defensively, we're getting Watts back. The defense with him has been great. Without him, a nightmare up front. You mentioned Hayward, Benton, Harmon, strong interior presence. Queen plugs the middle. On the edge, you've got pressure package of Herbig, Holcomb, and Harrison. Look, I think this is a good unit up front. When you look at the back, they brought in Slay, Ramsey, Thornhill. This gives them more flexibility to play more man coverage than they've played in the past. We all know my boy Tomlin, 65% ATS as a dog, 26% ROI. Automatic bet for me anytime he's an underdog. And you mentioned the win total over. He's 13-5 to his win total over in his career coaching. And look, you mentioned it. I'm buying. You mentioned it with their schedule. And look, I'm buying into. Schedule sets up well, soft up front, tough later. But this team is going to steal games that they shouldn't. That's exactly what Tomlin does. Defense is strong. Offensive line is improved. They have weapons. I'm going to gamble that after 2 years of being utterly embarrassed, Rodgers is actually going to buy in and manage the offense the way Smith wants it to be managed. Tomlin has shown he has the ability to connect and manage these guys that have been a little bit difficult. I play the Steelers here at plus 148 to make the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, dude.
Listen, they have a tough back end of their schedule, but they seriously could go 5-0 or 7-1 to start their season, and I'm not joking.
It kind of could be the COVID year with Ben Johnson when they were like, what, 12-0?
Yeah.
12-0.
Their schedule is very, very winnable. I mean, they could easily go to Chargers and win that game. Like, I don't – at Cincinnati's the only one I'm projecting them to lose early on. I don't –
How funny would it be the first year Tomlin misses the playoffs, Rodgers is the quarterback? That would be pretty funny.
That actually would be all hilarious.
That would be funny. Last and final team, we are going out to Baltimore. Ravens plus 670 to win the Super Bowl, plus 350 to win the AFC, minus 147 to win the North, over under 11.5 to make the playoffs, minus 550 to miss, plus 390. Where's your head with the Baltimore Ravens?
I don't really want to sound like a homer here. We're probably going to sound like a homer here. Like the Ravens are entering 2025. I believe in full contender mode. They've retooled. They didn't really lose too much. They're priced at 11.5 wins. Baltimore finished last season 12-5 despite blowing late leads against the Raiders and the Browns, and they almost beat the Chiefs and the Steelers. Still, they ranked number 1 in offensive yards per play, 6.8, and top 5 in defensive yards per play, 5.2, showing they were pretty much a dominant team all year long. Continuity is a major strength with these guys. John Harbaugh returns along with both coordinators. I like that. That helps them maintain scheme stability. They also improved their defense by drafting Malachi Starks, defensive lineman Mike Green, and linebacker Teddy Buchanan. Their safety duo, including 24-year-old Kyle Hamilton, I just really love and I believe is among the best in the league. Their schedule starts pretty tough. Games against Kansas City, Detroit, the Rams early on, but I think it softens later on with games like Cleveland, Jets, New England. In the middle of the season, they just have like a stretch there against the Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Jets, and Browns where they might pull off a 5-0 run there. I think that's going to be key for them to keeping their position in the AFC. I believe they have right around the 12th toughest strength of schedule. facing the AFC East and the NFC North as their other conferences they're playing this year. Late challenges and road games at Minnesota, at Green Bay, on a short week, and key division road contests against Cincinnati and Pittsburgh loom large at the end of the year. But I think they're a team that is just well built to handle that, despite the challenges. As long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy, I just think that's the biggest key. In seasons where he's played full time, they've posted records of 13-2, 11-4, 13-3, and 12-5, which most sources out there are all leaning over 11.5 wins. And I just think if he's healthy, they're going to at least get to 12. They could, looking at their schedule, if all things fall right, they could only lose 1 or 2 games. I think they'll probably lose 3 or 4, but they have the talent to go that deep. Numerous sites rank them number 1. A lot of sites have them winning 13 games. Some have them winning 16 games. I just think they have a well-balanced team. They have an ability to dominate, especially if they start strong early. The key continuity of their roster is the biggest thing for me. Their elite safety play, and then just the balance on offense. I just think they're favored to win most of their games. I have the Ravens to win the division at -135. I took the Ravens over 11.5 wins at -115. And then the props that I took, other long shot I took Baltimore and Pittsburgh to finish first and second at +400. And then the only prop that I took for them is you're probably not going to like it. It's took me a minute to get there, but I think he's still going to have another good year. Zay Flowers. I know he may have a little regression here, but I think Zay Flowers can still get over 900.5 receiving yards, -114. I looked at his 1,000 receiving yards at +150. I think he can get there again. He hit it last year. He cashed that last season on 74 receptions and 116 targets for 14.4 yards per reception on average, which was 3 yards more than the year prior, which he averaged right around 11, which he had 858 yards. So he had 858 year 1, went over 1,000 year 2. I think he's going to regress, but I think he can still go over 900 year 3. The addition of Henry, I believe, pulls defenses in, which helps Flowers find more space to run and avoid defenders. He's really good after the catch. So he, like you mentioned in Higgins, Flowers he can catch deep balls, but I think Flowers really excels catching the ball and running after the catch. With teams looking to stop Henry and the duo of Andrews and Likely, I just think Flowers could see another 110 plus targets and right around 70 to 80 receptions. I think this year he could really break the 80 reception mark, which would be the first time in his short career.
My thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens. One of the most physically well-coached teams in the league. But I have some cracks in the armor, and I have some real questions as we enter 2025. Warhop is back, year 2 as an O-line coach. Guy's a vet, 29 years in the NFL. Zone blocking scheme fits perfectly in what Baltimore wants to do. Create space, motion heavy, run first football that sets up explosive play action. Honestly, when you look at the line, 7th pass blocking, 18th run blocking, 3rd sacks allowed, 3rd in adjusted yards. Just a great unit overall. Now, all 5 stars returned, plus they added Emory Jones in the 3rd round. High upswing tackle. Rosengarten struggled early. When you look at his play from week 10 on, plus 73 pass blocking grade in all but 2 games, allowing just 1 sack over that span. I think he's going to take a step forward. You got Lindenbaum, arguably the best center in football, top 4 in pass and run blocking. Unit really isn't flashy. It's just consistent. It gets everything done. They were number 1 in yards per carry, number 2 in power success. Just overall, just a great offensive line. When you look at Lamar Jackson, basically heavy personnel, tons of pre-snap motion so he can read what the defense is going to do. A lot of rotating, mixing and grouping, some of the best play action looks in the NFL. 6 in yards off of play action last year, seeing the field better, throwing to the outside more. But for me, I think the wide receiver situation, I think it's a little murky. for where they drafted Zay Flowers, he hasn't really taken that leap that people has expected. They gave Bateman the extension. It kind of feels like it's a forced investment to me, not really earned. They have DeAndre Hopkins, who isn't what he used to be, obviously a year older. There's my boy, Walker, from
I love him.
He couldn't get on the field last year. I'm intrigued by his size and his speed.
Mm-hmm.
It's what they lack. And if he can get on the field, I'm going to look to bet some of his overs early on in the season. They don't have any season-long props for him out because they really don't know what they're going to get. But if he's named to be in the starting unit, those first games to start the season against Buffalo and against Cleveland, I'm going to be looking to bet his overs. The big question mark, obviously, is this is when we see likely take over for Andrews. Andrews 30 looked a step slower last year. Likely moves better. The tight end is the focal point of the passing game. So whoever wins this is going to be get the volume over the middle. Now let's talk about Derrick Henry. Great fit on paper, outside zone. Obviously a light snap share, which is ideal for Henry because he's 31. But in terms of fantasy, we really need to be real about him. I'm not going to draft him. He doesn't catch the ball in the backfield. He's going to lose goal line work to Lamar. And he's been at the age where running backs have dipped off forever. Now, look, he was still among the leader in broken tackles last year, but the wheels are going to fall off. And I don't want to be the guy drafting Derrick Henry at 31 years old in the first round of my fantasy football draft. If I lose fantasy football to a 31-year-old, I lose fantasy football to a 31-year-old. It is what it is. Defensively, Zach Orr is back. Rough first half of the season, but he was trying to mimic what Mike McDonald ran, the system, instead of building his own. And we see this a lot of times with young coordinators. They just try to do what the guy before them did instead of putting in their own stuff. Once he did that, the unit was improved. It finished second in most sacks in the league, despite not being able to blitz the way Orr wanted to because of what was going on in the back four. They bring in Owaze and Starks. That's going to booster the back four. That's going to allow them to play more man coverage, what Orr wants. And what does that mean? More blitzing. They drafted Green, who's going to add some spice to the pass rush. They re-signed former Lion great Kyle Van Noy, but at 33, is he going to be able to maintain the production? And another worry for me is this defense incredibly lucky with their health in 2024. Are they due for some health regression? And no Justin Tucker. Weird vibe. Are they going to be able to count on this new kicker in close games? Team should be a contender. Red flags for me are this: brutal early schedule, 3 straight road games right after the bye, because they go Bears and then right after that Miami, Minnesota and Cleveland. Health regression's almost guaranteed. Wide receiver room doesn't scare me. Henry is aging, and when we look at the AFC, I think the Bills have the easiest schedule. I think the Bills are going to be the 1 seed overall. Can this Baltimore team go in to Buffalo and win in the AFC Championship game? That's the $1 million question. Are they going to be able to get over that hump? I hate betting overs on these high win totals. Harbaugh 10-6-1 to the over in his lifetime. Mylene, I'm just gonna wait. Like, if I can get this team like at 10-1 or something to make the playoffs, they struggle early out of the gate.
Yeah,
maybe, but I just don't think there's value in betting the plus 650. Maybe if we can get Lamar at 10-1 or higher to win MVP, something like that. But right now, for me, this is just one of those teams, and I know it sucks. Like, you've been great. You're giving out futures for everyone. I'm being a big scaredy cat and only giving out Pittsburgh Steelers and Chase Brown.
I mean, it's risky. The Ravens could easily start. What? I mean, I'm looking. They can start the season 1-3.
I mean, they
2-5, 2-4.
Buffalo. Okay. At Buffalo, Cleveland, Detroit, at Kansas City, Houston, and then they play the Rams.
Rams. I mean, I don't think they're going to lose to Houston. I don't think they're going to lose to Cleveland, but they could lose those other 4 games. Like,
I mean, the spot to fade them is that game October 30th at Miami. That Thursday night game, short week, coming off of playing the Bears. That's the spot where you have to fade them. Now, you mentioned the AFC. You know what? Maybe do I tease everyone and tell you my sleeper team? I'll just tell you off air, but that's what I'm just going to do. I'm going to tell you off air.
Why? Tell everybody, man. And we all know you like the Jaguars secretly. You've got this Trevor Lawrence fetish. You got this. You have Trevor Lawrence poster above your bed. You want to show everybody.
No, I don't. It's not.
You love that long blonde hair.
You're never going to guess who it is.
Don't bet on Daniel Jones, darn it. I promise you the Colts are going to be terrible too.
You're never going to guess who it is, my man. Never going to guess.
Well, I know you're not a fan of Miami's head coach, so you'd never bet on them.
Never going to guess. So,
yeah, maybe not.
Wade, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, coming on, talking a little AFC North. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, my friend?
Yeah, just come over and check me out on all social media at Top Flight Wagers. Dropping kind of baseball stuff, PGA, UFC during the week right now. Getting ready to ramp up some college football. Drop some probably some college football articles will be dropping tomorrow, actually. So check those out. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on for this edition of your NFL preview season. So.
Always a pleasure. I've been messing around your Discord. Baseball's kind of a downtime for me right now. I'm not gonna lie. Like baseball's kind of like a little bit of a downtime for me right now. But you know, I've been posting some NFL futures in your thing a little bit. So make sure to check that out. Wade will be on my podcast this week talking a little UFC. So make sure to check that out. I appreciate my man. Make sure to give this man a follow. We'll be back next week talking some NFC North with my boy Reed. Make sure to check that out. Nice. Best of luck, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Thanks, guys.